on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is Titans Talk.
Hey there, and welcome into Titans Talk. I am Steve Lehman. Glad to have you with us here on this Monday night on NewsChannel 5 Plus, and we can certainly talk about what was a exciting and entertaining and at times frustrating game yesterday in San Diego. The Titans go down to the Chargers 43-35, their 7th consecutive loss in San Diego, dating back to 1990. When Warren Moon was the starting quarterback for this franchise, when they were the Oilers still based in Houston. That tells you how hard it has been for the Titans in Qualcomm Stadium. Yesterday, they battled. It was not pretty at times, but they certainly battled, showed some resiliency, and made it a whale of a football game. And people are going to talk about the current quarterback, Marcus Mariota, once again, phenomenal in large stretches. He's now thrown 13 touchdown passes in the last 5 weeks. That's terrific. He rushed for an electrifying touchdown that gave the Titans the lead for a short time. But what people are talking about a lot today are the 3 mistakes. Mariota turned the ball over 3 times in this game, and all 3 led to San Diego points. 2 of them were directly returned for touchdowns. A fumble in the third quarter that got scooped up and ran in, and then a pick 6 in the fourth quarter when the Titans were driving, trying to tie the game, or actually take the lead. Those type of plays cannot happen. They cannot happen. And Mariota understands that. But they continue to. So my question for you guys tonight, 737-7767, is what is your thought on Mariota right now? Do you think that largely the good outweighs the bad? And that, for instance, the Titans aren't even in that game with a chance to win it yesterday unless he plays with the effectiveness that he played for much of the day. He threw for a season-high 313 yards, threw 3 touchdowns, ran for another score. Largely, he was the best player on the field for the Titans throughout the course of the game. But he also made the 3 biggest mistakes of the day. So what do you make of all of that and the scenario that is Marcus Mariota right now? And here we are, 21 starts into his NFL career. Concerned about the continuing turnover problems? Or do you feel like this is still just growing pains for a young quarterback that has shown a ton of promise so far? Interested on your thoughts on that. 737-7767 is the number tonight. The really alarming thing to me is of Marcus Mariota's 15 turnovers this year in 9 games. A little bit higher number than you would like for 9 games already. But not a terrible number overall. Certainly not a terrible number when it comes to the passing game and interceptions. He's got 8 interceptions so far versus, I believe, 16 touchdown passes. That's not a bad number by any means. The fumbles are a little bit more alarming, but to me the stat that's really troubling is the fact that of his 15 turnovers, 5 of them have been returned for scores. I mean, turnovers are bad enough. It's hard to win in the NFL when you turn the ball over. But when you literally hand the other team points, it almost becomes impossible. And that is what has happened here. Now, some of that, I think, has to be just considered bad luck. I mean, that ball yesterday was fumbled in the scrum of people and got kicked back about 15 yards and finally picked up by a defensive back who had no one between himself and the goal line. That very easily could have squirted the other way and been recovered by an offensive player, or even if the Chargers recover, all right, they recover the ball, but it's at their own 40-yard line or something. So some of it is bad luck. But there is a nature to some of these turnovers that are just catastrophic. And unfortunately for this year's Titans team, when you look at it, they've played 9 games. They're sitting here at 4-5, basically a 500 team. Well, the game against Minnesota, Mariota handed them 2 touchdowns. One of them was an exchange, maybe not completely his fault, but a fumble that gets charged to him and an interception that he threw, both got ran back for touchdowns in that game. He had another interception and turnover in that game that led to a field goal. So he was responsible for 17 points for Minnesota in that game. He was responsible for 17 points yesterday in the loss to the Chargers. He also had the fumble at the end of the Indianapolis game that, for all intents and purposes, ended their chances of winning that when they had been driving up and down the field in the second half of the game, looking like a team that the Colts were unable to stop and could have won the game with the touchdown drive. Those are catastrophic mistakes. You take those away, I mean, especially the Minnesota game and the game yesterday, you're probably looking at a 6-3 Titans team right now with 3 other close losses. 6-3 means you're in first place. And you have a whole lot in front of you in the second half of the year. Now, the Titans are still very much in the race and have a lot to play for coming up, especially if they can bounce back and get a win against what is a struggling Packers team right now on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. But the fact remains that those turnovers have essentially cost this team 2 games. I think you can probably also say that Marcus Mariota has won some of these games for the Titans. I mean, the game in Detroit, those 2 fourth-quarter drives, he was almost flawless in leading the Titans back to get a win in which they were dominated virtually the entire game. Miami, 3 touchdowns, rushing touchdown. They win. The Jacksonville game on Thursday night, he was spectacular. He's been really good at times, and they've needed him to be. That's the unfortunate thing for the Titans, is you are asking Marcus Mariota to do so much right now. This team is taking strides, but still to win on a consistent basis, especially the way they played yesterday, in which they got down 16-0 to start the game. The running game was not particularly effective. They put a lot on his right arm yesterday. Put a lot on him. And at times, he was absolutely spectacular with that pressure. He got them back. He willed them back into the game and actually helped the Titans take the lead at one point. But ultimately, the mistakes cost them. So I want to hear from you tonight. Your thoughts on Marcus Mariota, 21 games into his career. What do you think? What do you think about where he is at? What do you make of these turnovers and the times in which they come and the type of turnovers that they are? Is this part of his makeup, just who he is as a quarterback? Or is this still a young guy finding out his way? I'll give you some numbers. I want to get your thoughts, your impressions, 737-7767. A little bit later on, though, I'll give you some numbers to kind of put some context into this equation. So we'll talk about that coming up. But phone lines are open, 737-7767. And we begin tonight with Ron. Ron, good evening. You're first up here on Titans Talk.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I got a question. You know, when I watch a home game and I'm sitting there watching it, I hear a lot of booing going on. And I'd like to know, when is Nashville going to get behind their team? You know, we only have one team, and it's the Titans, and they're pretty good, you know. And I don't appreciate hearing booing from the fans on our team.
Yeah, well, Ron, I'll tell you one thing. We've talked a lot about it on this program, that over the last few years when the Titans have really struggled, the home field advantage has kind of disappeared from Nissan Stadium. We've seen a lot of fans in other colored jerseys in there. It's gotten loud for the opposing team. I think you have heard more booing. But this season, when the Titans have picked it up a little bit, and as we mentioned, are basically flirting with that 500 mark, the crowds have been much better, especially in that 3-game homestand they had in October when they beat the Browns. They took the Colts down to the wire, and then they throttled the Jaguars a week ago Thursday. The crowds were pretty good, and frankly, players on the team have saluted the fans in those games for being loud. They said this is finally the home field advantage that we're looking for as a team. So
we got to clean it up, that's for sure. You know, there's a lot of growth we need to do, but we don't want to lose the team, and that could happen. And I don't want to not have a football team here.
Sure, and we appreciate the call, Ron. It's a good point, and certainly the Titans have asked for that for a long time. As part of having a great home environment is, yes, you want your football team to win, but 2, have fans there that are supporting them, that are loud, that are proud, that are into the game. We've seen it in the past year. When the Titans are good, fans are going to show up, and they are going to be into the game. And in that place, the Coliseum at the time, Nissan Stadium now, can be awesome. It can be a great home field advantage for the Titans. They understand they have to do their part. And so far this season, they're doing a better job. And I think you will continue to see fans show up. Even if you have games like yesterday, as frustrating as it was to lose, I think there was something about that game yesterday that gets you a little bit more excited about this team. Yes, they lost yesterday, but look, turnovers, especially catastrophic turnovers like that, to me, are correctable. You can avoid those, especially if you maybe start a little bit faster, don't have to put so much on Mariota throughout the entire course of the game. That helps. But I think there's something to be said of some of the plays they made, some of the plays he made, that I think can give you some hope that this team is headed in the right direction, as we've seen for much of this year. Back to the phones we go now, and Lester. Lester, good evening. You're next up here.
Hey, how you doing there?
Doing well.
All righty. Here's what's happening, man. You know, on them boos were directed to the quarterback, basically speaking. You understand? It wasn't, you know, so the team, as far as the people of Tennessee that are Titans fans are in favor of the Titans 100%. So those boos that he was getting, you understand, and he drew out of his people, you understand, it was deserving of it. And the only way he's going to be able to overcome that, you understand, is through the coaching staff tightening him up, whereas that he will not make those kind of mistakes giving away points and games. So that's all I really wanted to say about that.
All right, we appreciate the call. Look, the catastrophic mistake certainly cost them yesterday. But the Titans aren't in that game. And we've made this point a couple times before. I think it was the Houston game where the Titans got down big in the first half there. I think it was 17-0, if I'm not mistaken. It was 16-0 yesterday. In the past, if the Titans get down 17-0 to the Texans in Houston the past 3-4 years, I think that, certainly the last couple of years, I think the final score of that game is 35-3 or 42-10 or something like that. The Titans fought back and put themselves in a position where they had a chance to win that game. Yesterday, they took the lead and had a chance to win that game. To me, it's a different feeling Titans team because of the resiliency that they have shown. And a big part of that yesterday was Marcus Mariota. They got down. He brought them back into the game. And as we heard some players talking today in the locker room over at St. Thomas Sports Park, you'll take some of the bad with a young quarterback for all of that good. Unfortunately, yesterday, the bad probably cost them a football game. But if you don't have all of the good, they don't have a chance in that football game. All right, we got to take a break. We will come back. If you're on the line, hang with us. We'll get to you right after this break. 737-7767 is the number. More phone calls. Marcus Mariota, you impressed? You feel like even with the turnovers yesterday, he is the right guy moving forward and the surefire quarterback of this franchise? Or are the mistakes starting to pile up in your mind and you're concerned? I want to get your thoughts tonight. A little bit later on, I'll give you some numbers about Mariota as well. Stay tuned. More Titans talk right after this here on News Channel 5 Plus.